Hello? I know you told me to be here earlier. I'm sorry, I had a student stop by, and I was like, I gotta go. It was Max, actually. And he's like, where are you headed? Oh yeah, for sure. Like I said, it's easy, easy.
This might feel like an introduction.
Oh.
As a speaker.
Okay. Why don't I haven't had many with student interviews. Usually it's a introduce yourself and talk about yourself and then, so I'm with you. Yay! This is great. People look awake. Maybe a little hungry.
It might be the cold.
Look at those happy faces.
All right, everyone. Thank you for making it out here. I know it's cold, so welcome, welcome. Hopefully you guys are getting to warm up a little bit. Welcome. This is our second week of our engineering exploration series brought to you by CU's Engineers Without Borders team. My name is Hamsini Acharya. I'm going to kind of first talk about what the heck EWB or Engineers Without Borders is, who we are, and then introduce our fabulous guest speaker tonight. So without further ado, for those of you that don't know, Engineers Without Borders is a student and professional nonprofit organization. We do engineering design and implementation for developing communities in a sustainable manner. And to kind of speak on a more personal note, I joined CU's chapter of EWB as a freshman in engineering, as a wide-eyed, innocent person that really had no idea what the heck engineering was and just wanted to kind of jump into something that I found interesting. And 4 years later, when I'm about to graduate, I have to say that was probably the best decision I made in college, was being this involved with EWB. To kind of give you context of what I mean by that is that with EWB, I got to learn a lot of the really technical aspects of engineering and design, things like stresses and shear flow and pipe flow, all before I ever took classes in any of that material, which was really valuable, getting to see an equation that I'd worked with, a semester before, and getting to contextualize it in a real way rather than just in a textbook. But beyond that, a lot of the skills that I really learned from EWB that has been the most helpful in internships, in my research, in being able to interact and talk in front of people is things like leadership skills, communication and writing, which is so hugely important. I know a lot of people join engineering to kind of escape the writing, but believe me, it follows you. You definitely still need it, even in technical fields. And then I think for me personally, the best thing I learned from EWB was really how to go about solving these complex problems that don't have an answer in the back of your textbook, that don't have a solution set. How do you design, a well and tank system with no elevation, so that you have to pump water versus letting gravity feed it? All these really complex ideas that you can't fit in a classroom. They're much larger than that. So one of the big things I took away from EWB was not just how to think like an engineer. You get that with any engineering education, but really how to think beyond engineering. Like, how does engineering fit in within this larger global context where people are getting more and more interconnected? How do we help design for the other 90%? How do we help other people with engineering? And how does it evolve in a very fast-paced environment, which is our current global state, So I know many of you are probably interested in STEM. Many of you, I believe, are seniors, so I really highly encourage you, whatever university you end up attending in the fall or in a couple years or so, definitely consider joining an EWB chapter. It's a really invaluable experience getting to see a design, to touch something you've designed, and to get to travel and meet all these amazing people that are passionate about so many different things. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce Dr. Zarske. If you really want to talk about getting your hands dirty with engineering, Dr. Zarske is a great professor to talk about this because she is faculty of Engineering Plus. It's a new program that really is based off of projects and design-based learning. I can attest to that because I'm in it. But beyond that, Dr. Zarske got her PhD in environmental engineering. She has over 20 years of teaching expertise. She's also part of CU's Teach Engineering program, which is meant for students who want to pursue STEM education later in their careers. So really just a great professor. I've had her for 2 classes. They've been wild and so much fun because they are projects-based. You get to actually mess with something you design rather than just do a bunch of calculations. So without further ado, I'll let Dr. Zarske take the floor. So please join me in welcoming her.
Thank you, Vincini, and thank you to EWB for inviting me to be here this evening and talk to you all about some of the design work and engineering stuff we do at CU. So I need to sort of gauge who my audience is first. So how many people in here are seniors, high school seniors? Okay, how about juniors? Do we have some juniors in here too? And then do we have current undergraduate students in here that are awesome? And then who else is here? We've got some sophomores. Okay, so other high school students in here as well as some people that are interested in learning more about what engineering is, that probably have some sort of interest in STEM. And if you don't know, when we say STEM, we mean science, technology, math, engineering, and math. And so, you know, I love that we have this opportunity to come and talk to you about what we're doing at CU Boulder in engineering and what engineering is in general, because for a long time, engineering's been kind of the silent E in STEM, so that in our K-12 setting in our high schools and stuff, there hasn't been a lot of mention of what one actually does when one is an engineer or an engineering student. So this is a great opportunity for you to ask a lot of questions. A little bit more background for me. I've been at CU as a student and as a faculty member in several other different roles since 2000. So and it's all been in the College of Engineering. So I have a really long history with the College of Engineering as both a student and a director of a program and a faculty member. And so there's lots of questions you can ask me that I'll probably know the answer to. So I've been around for a long time. What I wanted to talk to you about today is, I think one of the questions, I was trying to think about this, one of the questions that you have when you're thinking about engineering, or somebody has told you you're good at math or you're good at science and you might want to consider engineering, is what is the different types of engineering look like? And I know this whole series is going to introduce you to a lot of the different types sort of in depth in some of the engineering, but I want to touch on what are some of the overall different things that you can do with engineering and how can you find your fit. And so sometimes, and I want you to know that you'll come into engineering and you'll pick an engineering college and you'll come into engineering and you'll say, I know I want to do an engineer, but I don't know exactly what I want to do with it. And you'll pick a major, something that somebody you know has been, or something that sounds interesting to you, and then you change your mind, okay? Totally okay. So I want you to know, before you even apply to engineering, that 60% of our engineering students, over 60% of our engineering students, switch their majors at least once in engineering. So they stay in engineering, but they might switch from something. They might start in electrical and move to mechanical or something like that. Totally okay. So if you think engineering sounds cool and you want to come in as engineering, pick something that sounds good, but know that you might change your mind about what major you're going to do as you go along. And that's what this fit piece is about. So what I want to talk to you about is how to make engineering mesh with your other passions, and how do you make it fit? Because you might also be interested in engineering, but you know you're interested in other things as well. So we'll talk about that. So engineering, as we know, there's a lot of really great things about engineers. And so engineers are not just people that sit at desks or sit at companies and get the high pay because they're coming out as professionals instead of just undergraduates with bachelor's degrees, right? So we know all that, but the thing that engineering is doing, which is so exciting to me, and I've really seen this shift over the last 20 years, is that engineers are really starting to be much more globally oriented. And that's why EWB is a great program as well. So it's real world experience and how to work with global teams. And that's what engineers are doing now. Engineers and engineering students that we have coming through CU and the engineering colleges right now, they want to improve the world. So it's not just about solving problems and analyzing things. they want to do something. They want to impact the health and the safety and the happiness of people that are living in their communities today. And so that's what engineering really is about. So it doesn't matter which major you pick in engineering, all of those are going to have an impact on the greater good. And so I really think that the students that are in engineering right now are really service oriented. They're very interested in making the world a better place. And that's what we learn to do as engineers. So if you are interested in making the world a better place, you're creative, you have leadership skills, then engineering could be a great fit for you. Now, the cool thing about CU Boulder is that CU Boulder is, it's the top engineering school in the Mountain Time Zone. If you didn't know that it is. So I know some of you out there are thinking, well, what about mines? It is actually engineering is, CU Boulder engineering is ranked higher than any other engineering college in the Mountain Time Zone. So I mean, any place you call in this time zone, that's who, we're the top. So that's good. But CU Boulder is also really trying to stay up with the times. So what types of engineering are out there? What ways can we meet the needs of the students today who have a lot of different desires of what they want to do? And so one thing that we did about 3-4 years ago is we sat down and we started to realize that there were students that wanted to do engineering. We actually saw this. And the students that wanted to do other things on top of that. So business, engineering management, Spanish, minors in all sorts of things. And students were doing this, and that's fine. But what that does is when you add double majors, if you add minors, it adds time to your degree, right? So it makes you stay in school longer. It's not like you can't do it, but if you stay in longer, what happens? You're paying more, right? And so people were trying to decide, okay, so I can't stay in longer, so I have to decide which one I want to do, and it was causing conflict for our students. So the college sat down and said, what kind of things can we do for this? And we ended up designing the Engineering Plus program. Now the Engineering Plus program is a program in which you've got 6 of the majors in engineering contributed to this. So you have 6 emphasis areas, we call them. And in Engineering Plus, and I'll talk about those in a minute, you have the core courses that you're taking in engineering. You've got the courses that you're taking with the major or your emphasis area, and then you get a concentration. And so what we figured out how to do with all these heads of the different departments in engineering is how can we make it so that an engineering student can do engineering plus something that they're passionate about outside of engineering and get it all to work within that 4-year problem. So we created, which is kind of a flexible engineering degree. And so the flexible part is that our first cohorts of students, like Hamsini, were designing their majors. So they said, yes, this is great. I'm really interested in it. Was it mechanical? Mm-hmm. And I also want to do neuroscience, which is what she's doing, all right? So I want to do mechanical and neuroscience because I want to think about med school and things that I can do like that. And so we went to neuroscience on campus and figured out what classes would help Hamsini get the degree she wanted from engineering at CU. And then we had other people coming in. We had somebody who helped us design, they were aero, and they thought it would be really wise to do Russian. So we ended up with an aero emphasis with Russian. And then everybody started coming forward. All these students started coming forward, and some of them had similar interests than others. And so we started getting all these ideas for concentrations. And now we have 18 different concentrations. So if you have 6 emphasis areas and 18 concentration areas in Engineering Plus, there's over 100 combinations that you can do. The cool thing that I'm going to talk a little bit more about is so some of the common things that happen in here is that you've got the core courses, you've got your emphasis areas, you've got your concentrations, and I want you to notice this sort of like gold, CU colors, banner across the bottom that's on design. So one thing that we have that's also common to all of our engineering courses is the amount of hands-on design that you're doing in engineering. So little tip for you as you're looking at engineering colleges. If you're looking at engineering college that is worth its weight, and this is about 2/3 of the engineering colleges in the nation, they will have a first-year engineering projects class. Okay? Research shows, and we've been doing this research for a while now, that if you take a first-year projects class, so you're able to get into engineering and right away you get to do something with it. You're working on a team, you're designing a product. If you get to do that, you're more likely to understand what it is to do engineering and stay with engineering. Okay? So I would say probably about 2/3 of the engineering colleges in the nation have an engineering freshman projects course. That's good. You want that because you want a college that knows the research on how to teach engineering. All colleges in engineering have a senior capstone course. That's where you take all of the knowledge that you've been gaining over the 4 years and you do some sort of very cool senior project with a group or on your own, and you're showing off all of your skills. All of them have that. So if you look at that, that's 2 projects classes that you're taking. One, your first year, and then you wait and take another. The cool thing about CU Boulder is that we have one every year. So we have a first year projects class. We have a sophomore project class. I designed that one, so I'm completely biased, and I'll probably talk about it for a while. We have a junior level projects class, which is an innovation class, and then we have senior capstone design. These are available for any student that comes to engineering. This is unique to CU Boulder. There aren't that many colleges that have an intentional product design course for students every 4 years. Engineering Plus is the only major in the nation that requires that you take all of them. So that means that Engineering Plus students are the students that are coming out required to have at least 4 semester-long team-based hands-on design courses. All right, so I'm going to talk more about that because it's something that's really a differentiator. It's great that CU decided to do this, and I can tell you, I was a director before being faculty with Engineering Plus. I was the director of K-12 engineering for the College of Engineering, so I was the person who sent students out to your schools and partnered with tours that have come on campus and all this sort of thing. And then Engineering Plus started, and they said, we'd love to have you come and be a faculty with us. And it was a pay cut. And I did it because I love the fact that the college decided to do this. I think it's the right thing to do. So we're going to talk more about this, but let me just point out to you, these are our, this is what we have for Engineering Plus. So students that, okay, so let me tell you about the students at Engineering Plus. Engineering Plus students are amazing. They are students that I feel are already leaders in the college. This does not mean that there aren't students in other majors who aren't leaders. I'm just saying they seem to gravitate, all of the students that we have are leaders, and they are because they are okay with taking a new program and being the people that go through it and try it out and help us improve it. And so they have a lot of courage. They know what they want. They are happy to communicate. They're really great speakers in groups. They're amazing, and they see themselves as something more than an engineer. So Engineering Plus students have found us or came in because they were like, I like engineering, but I also really like something else besides engineering. And when I see my job in the future, I don't see myself working just for an engineering firm, being one of their entry-level engineers and moving up. I see myself bringing something to that company that is a little bit more than what they're getting with the average engineering student, or a lot more than what they're getting with the average engineering student. I have a combo of passions that I want to put together, and CU has created this pathway for me to do that. So our students are doing some great things. So we've had 3 years of graduates at this point, and we have students that are working, that have gotten great graduate fellowships that they're working on. We've got some interesting students doing some great things in industry. We've had local industry design jobs for our students because of the skill set that they have, Ball for one. We have students that are traveling the world doing great things. It's really neat to see what our students are doing. So our students are landing cool jobs, they're doing great things. And so they, some of them see themselves doing med school afterwards. Now I do have to say on the side here that med school's like engineers. So if you are thinking that you're trying to do the sort of weighing between med school and engineering, med schools like engineers. Why do you think med schools might like engineers? Anyone? The way they think, exactly. So tell me a little bit more about that. What is it about the way they think?
Just that they consider different aspects and then the logical and know how to communicate.
Yeah, it's exactly it. So in engineering, it doesn't matter which major you're in, you'll be trained to take a systems look at whatever it is that you're looking at. And so when you think about med schools, so there's a lot that goes into engineering. Engineers have a lot of different classes they take, but when you think about med schools, and you think about who you want as your doctor, you want someone who's going to not just diagnose one part of you. They're going to look, come on in, they're going to look at the whole system, right? Your whole body and see what's interacting. And that's what engineers train you for. So the entire time you're in engineering, you're looking at different parts of a system and how you put that system together. So not just the communication and working on teams, but it's also about how do I look at how the system functions as a whole. And so med schools tend to really like engineering students. So some of our Engineering Plus students are interested in med school, but they're interested in a lot of different things. So our different emphasis options, and I'll just skip this, is these are the emphasis areas that we have. So these are all the traditional majors, not all of these is a selection of the traditional majors that we had at CU as well. But our emphasis areas that you can choose from in E+ are aerospace, architectural, civil, electrical, environmental, and mechanical. So those are the people that said, yes, we want to come. Those are the departments that said, yes, we want to figure out how to do this for our students. They sat down at the table and we figured out these pathways through engineering that would allow students to take the courses with their major, but also fit in that concentration or that minor without adding, in theory, time to degree. Now, I do have to say that some of our engineering, we have, I was talking to one of our Engineering Plus students who has 3 concentrations with her major. You know who I'm talking about too, today. And she's going to take an extra semester or 2 to get done. But she's got so much that she's passionate about, and she's really amazing, that she's going to get it done. So I know the big question you all are asking is this. So how does that work, right? Because you're all saying this sounds too good to be true. So how does it work? So what happens with this is that each department sat down and they said, okay, if we had to give wiggle room on our very packed flowcharts that we have in engineering, how could we do this? And what it ended up being was choice. So I'll give an example of environmental engineering. In environmental engineering at CU Boulder, there's a lot of environmental that is focused around water. And I was an environmental engineer here, so it's a pretty easy one for me to talk about. So when you're taking environmental courses at CU Boulder, you're taking water, wastewater, hazardous waste, water chemistry, there's this whole water track you can take. And they said, okay, if you're going to be a practicing environmental engineer in industry, you're probably not going to be working in wastewater and drinking water and hazardous waste sites and in water chemistry. You're going to be working in some of it, but most environmental engineering jobs don't cover that entire spectrum. So we're going to let you choose. So now when it comes to you taking your junior level and senior level environmental engineering courses, we're going to let you choose between, pick 2 out of 4 of these courses that you want to take with your peers in environmental, and then that gives you space for 2 more courses that you can take in that concentration area, that outside interest that you have. Aerospace. Anybody here interested in aerospace? So aerospace, usually in a traditional aerospace major, you study both structures and controls. Yet, when you work in an aerospace industry, you need to have knowledge of both, but you don't work in both. You're either working on structures or you're working on controls. So what they said is, okay, pick which pathway you want through it. Do you want to be the person that focuses on structures or the person that focuses on controls? And then we'll shave off a course on the one that you don't choose. So you'll still have knowledge of it, but you just won't do as in-depth in the other pathway, and you'll do in-depth in the one pathway, and that gives you a little bit of wiggle room in order to fit in those courses. And so that's how it works for all of these. So these departments all came in. It's all different. Every single one of them came to the table and said, this is what we feel comfortable sending you out from CU Boulder, having done this Engineering Plus in this emphasis area, and still say that you took classes with us. We still feel good about you. Okay, so it's not a light. It's not engineering light. You're not getting less than your peers. You're just getting some more choice than your peers. And so for these students, most of them have an idea of what they want to do, and so it just seems like a little bit of fluff, the extra classes that their peers are taking, in a sense. Not all of them, but. These are our concentration areas. So you have 18 of them to choose from, and as you can see, there's lots of different ones up here. So we've got business and economics and engineering physics. Entrepreneurship is a popular one for us. Environmental policy, environmental studio design, neuroscience, thanks to Hamsini, pre-med, Russian culture, Spanish and Latin American cultures, teaching, which I'll talk a little bit more about, applied math as a minor, And what's interesting about these is that we have certificate programs here at CU, and it turns out that some of these actually go really well together, and you can end up having a really nice resume when you leave CU because you've got this emphasis area, you've got this concentration which mapped really well with this minor, and you've got this and this together, and you have a really neat resume that you're taking out to companies and saying, hey, look who I am. I have all these great things, and I fit it into 4 years, so I didn't have to pay extra. So, you choose one of these or more, as we're seeing from our students. And let me talk a little bit more about those design courses, because this is the part that I think that I gravitate towards. So I teach some of the design classes. So we have the first year projects class, and you would take that. In fact, the first year projects class is actually required by 5 of our engineering majors anyway. So, and 6, including engineering plus. So if you come in, there's a good chance you're going to take it. If it's not required by your major, there's 2 that I can think of, Chem Bio and Computer Science. And we can talk about that. Computer Science has their own version of a first year projects course, and Chem Bio doesn't have the room in their curriculum to do a first year projects course. Now, like I said, research shows that if you can get into a first year projects course and have a hands-on experience in your first year, it gives you a better sense of what you want to do in engineering. So we have a lot of Chem Bio students who take the class, but it's not required. That's the difference. Do you understand? Okay, so the first year project class is great. So these are interdisciplinary classes. So you're in a class, you pick a section. You don't take the environmental section or the mechanical section or anything like that. You take a section, and that section is going to be a mix. It's interdisciplinary, right? So it's going to be a mix of students in different majors, freshmen and sophomore mostly, and you're put on a team of 5 to 6 students, and you spend the semester designing a product. Those products are great. They vary by section. You won't know what you're doing until you get into your class and your faculty tells you. So, in a sense, I always teach the same thing for my project. So if you've talked to someone who has done my project section, then you'll know what it is that I'm teaching. So, well, the projects range. A lot of them have to do with design for communities. So whether you're designing some systems for a developing community, or you're designing something for life in space, or you're designing something for a local community client, you're spending the semester with your 5 new BFFs from different majors, getting to know them, most of the time getting along, sometimes not always getting along, and figuring out how it is to work in a team and what it feels like to be an engineer on an interdisciplinary team. You get it done right away. It's super great. So that class is fun. We highly recommend it. So the sophomore level design class, engineering design for the community, is my class. And so like I said, I could talk about this one forever if you have questions. But basically in my class what we do is we take that first year projects experience and we take it to the next level. So in first year projects, you do an intro project, you get to know your team, you talk a lot about team dynamics and team growth and professional skills for engineering, as well as you learn how to use our machine shop, and you learn how to use our laser cutters and our 3D printers. And if you have this experience already, it's great. You bring that to your team as an expert, so you're already an expert in something. If you don't, it's a really great space to learn it, because you're not being graded on whether or not you've learned it well. You just get to try it, right? It's about trying out engineering. In design for the community, what we do is I have local community clients. So every semester, we have 6 local community clients that are non-for-profit. So this is not industry bringing in money to us, but local non-for-profits. And you spend the semester learning about how to design something for an end user that you have to design what it is that they want, right? So there's some choice in it. You and your team get to sort of pick what things that you're most interested in. I try to match you up with the project that one of your top 3 choices. But let's see, think of some of the projects I've done. Some of the popular ones, local fire stations, okay? So they do training props. So fire station training props. So think about roof access, garage door access. What are the props they use to train the firefighters? We've done those. Local schools. So we've done a lot with local schools and local classrooms, either with assistive technologies or educational modules. We've done, we've done the Greenwood Village Animal Wildlife Sanctuary. We have done Children's Hospital. We've had projects for them. Jeff and Paige, you all are local. Do you remember Jeff and Paige? Are you all too old for Jeff and Paige, or do we know Jeff and Paige? Jeff and Paige is awesome, right? So Jeff and Paige is a local musical duo, and they do environmental and STEM music shows for elementary school students, and we've developed props for them. Those are really fun. We've done a cheerometer for them, light up jellyfish hats we just did. So if you see a show soon, they're going to be in those. And they're super fun, right? So we've also had, let's see, I don't know, what was your project? Do you remember what was?
We built a portable sound booth for a local library. Yeah. They were making like a makerspace,
yeah.
And they wanted a way for kids to be able to record music and like podcasts and stuff, but something that could also collapse down in their makerspace. Yeah. So that was a really cool project.
So the cool thing about it is that it's a local client, right? So you get to meet with them and talk to them, and they get to tell you, hey, this is going well, or can you adjust it this way? And it's pretty cool. So that's your second experience. You have to go a little bit deeper with your sort of mechanical, electrical knowledge and your prototyping, but a lot into user testing. How do we design for an actual client? The third one, which is your junior level, which is your invention and innovation class. This one is more about product to market. So this one then takes everything that you've been doing as products, and you and your team have to pitch a product, and then people choose the products they're going to work on. And then you spend the semester coming up with your business plan and your marketing and your product, and then how do you get that product to market? And you talk about a lot of the things like patents and all the other type of stuff that goes along with product development. And then you've got your senior capstone, which you do in your emphasis department. So if you are mechanical emphasis, you're going to take the mechanical senior capstone course. We are actually developing a new interdisciplinary senior capstone as well. We're piloting it now. And that might be a fun one to try too if you're interested in that. That would be open to most of the majors as well. So the other cool thing with Engineering Plus is that we offer an Engineering Plus version, section or two, of all the core engineering classes. So core engineering classes are going to be your statics and your circuits and your thermodynamics and your data analysis and your materials. And we offer these, but ours are all hands-on. So you might be taking a statics course in mechanical, and that's great. They do a very nice job, but it's a lot of bookwork. There's a lab with it. In our statics courses, in our thermo courses, in circuits, okay, so I teach the circuits course, I'll talk about that one. So you might take circuits out of the electrical engineering department, and if you do that, it's a great course. There's a great lab with it. You learn a lot. In my class, we do all of that work. We prep ourselves. It's a circuits for non-majors class. We prep all that, and then we spend the last 5 weeks of the semester designing a product. We design classic arcade games from scratch. So what you see is that you and it's team-based. So again, you're in a team, you're working with a team, you've got a product, and you're developing it. And you're so what happens with our Engineering Plus students is they get to their junior year and they already have like 7 different product design teams they've been on. So when they're looking for internships, they're already talking, they've got this portfolio where they have to pick and choose which projects they're going to work on, put on their resume based on whatever it is that they're applying for. So that's a very cool thing. All of this is available to any engineering student at CU Boulder. The only one who requires it is Engineering Plus. And so honestly, if I had to put it out there, I would say that we should really call this our design engineering major, because that's what it is. We have found that when we're doing it, if hands-on engineering design and product design is what you're interested in, that's a lot of what this major is. Does that make sense? Awesome. So let me tell you about a few of our very cool students. So I was trying to think about like what things you might be interested in hearing. And so seeing what some of our students do as internships and as Engineering Plus students, I thought might be a valuable way to go. So I've just got a couple of them up here. So B is awesome. She's a senior now. Oh my gosh, you all are gonna graduate. I'm gonna be so verklempt. She's great. So she's mechanical engineering and engineering management. And she, through all the people that had applied for an internship with Adidas, landed this Adidas sports equipment shoes internship. Did such a great job that they paid for her to take a semester off, flew her to China, put her up, and had her work with them for a semester in China with their Adidas plant over there. And now she's back, finishing up her degree. And what they said to her was, we love the skills you brought to the table. We have an intern for this upcoming summer, and we want you to find someone from Engineering Plus to fill that spot for us. So Adidas had their internships that they were putting out for undergraduates for this upcoming summer, and they want an Engineering Plus student. So that's what happens for us, is that people see all the design experience that she brought to the table. She's got great leadership skills, great management skills. She's been taking some management courses, and now Adidas wants, you guys can apply from other majors, but we actually want Engineering Plus. And so we sent a bunch of Engineering Plus students their way. They're in the interview process right now. They fly students out to their Seattle or Portland, somewhere in the Northwest to do that. And that job for this summer is also on a new line of shoes that they're designing. So Adidas, that's pretty cool, right? And they want Engineering Plus students because of the design experience that they have. So here's Rachel. Rachel is, as you can see, she's a triple concentration. She's the person I was talking about earlier. So she has 3 concentrations. She has really found her way, I think, in the entrepreneurship space. Okay, so she is doing STEM education because of the communication piece. She loves working with K-12 audiences. She's doing entrepreneurship and engineering management. Turns out that entrepreneurship and engineering management actually go really, really well together. I think there's only 1 extra class if you want to do both. It adds, like, it's not 2 separate 18 credit concentrations. It overlaps, and so you can get both of them pretty easily. So Rachel, and you should look Rachel up. She, if you're interested in entrepreneurship, she has worked with the New Venture Challenge group here on campus, as well as some of the other innovation spaces. And she has a, I was just talking to her today, she has a podcast that some of the engineering students do around innovation, and they post that up there and talk about some of the cool stuff that's going on. So Boulder's a really neat space, as you know, for invention and innovation and entrepreneurship. And they really do a great job, the area and startups in the area, of getting engineering students engaged with them. The projects that Rachel and a couple of our other Engineering Plus students have done, some of them are collaborations with business students. We have the, what is the summer startup? Do any of you know what it's called? Catalyze. Is it Catalyze? Yeah, so Catalyze. So there's a summer program where you pitch your projects, and they will pay you as a summer internship to spend your summer working on those products and those prototypes and those ideas. And at the end of the summer, you have a pitch session where you're selling it to the community and to angel investors, and it's like Shark Tank, right? So they do that, and you can get some money to continue working on it. 2 of our just graduated last spring Engineering Plus students had 2 different projects in it this summer, and that's pretty impressive to have 2 from 1 major. There's probably about 10 of them total, and so they had products that they were pitching and are still working on now. So that's pretty fun for us as well. So Rachel's great. She does. She's done Startup Summer, and has anyone here done CU Science Discovery? Did you ever do that as a camp? Right. My girls do it. I have 2 daughters. She worked with them for like 3 years too, and got some really nice internships with them, working with CU. She actually worked with them throughout the year, I think. So you might recognize her. So Elijah is another one of our students. He's a junior right now, I think. He might be a senior. And he's architectural and entrepreneurship. And he worked with another couple of our students to put together kind of like EWB, but it's another engineering group that had a project that they were doing and got the funding through campus to send students over to Ecuador to do some architectural projects over there. And so this is another example of a student who, or a couple students in engineering who have a project, they have a passion for something, and then they go make it happen, right? So he's got some interesting, he's done a lot, but he also wants to help change the world and help change the world developing communities. And so he is taking his Engineering Plus degree, and that's what he's doing with it. He's figuring out how to make it happen, and he's become a leader in that sense as well. And then I would be remiss if I did not mention the CU Teach Engineering program. So CU Teach Engineering is a pathway that is one that I work on as well. So I'm the university supervisor or faculty member for this program. And so another one of the concentrations that you can do is you can do teaching K-12 licensure for science or math. So if you have a calling or you have a passion to do teaching as well as engineering, we have a pathway for that. And this is one of the reasons we actually started Engineering Plus, because there was no way to do this. There were students that wanted to do teaching, and there was no way set up to do it. So we have it now. And so this is one of our concentration areas. Some of the cool things about this is that we also have a STEM education concentration that you can do. You saw that Rachel was doing that. And you can do, it's not all the way through student teaching. This particular one is through student teaching, and it's paid student teaching, and it comes with a lot of scholarship money with it. So in this particular concentration area, it's $31,000 of scholarship money over your last 5 semesters that you're in the program, and that includes a paid student teaching, 11 grand for that semester that you're student teaching. So what are our student teaching students doing, right? Like, what are our CU Teach students doing? They're not all becoming K-12 classroom teachers. So that is an option, but most of them, let's say, I would say a third of them went into, they just knew. They're like, I know that I want to be a math or a physics teacher when I'm done. And I think engineering is a great pathway for that. And it is, because that is a guaranteed job right there. So you are not trying to find and competing against your peers in this. There's a ton of engineering teaching jobs that are out there, or people that want that skill set in their schools. But a third of them are going to grad school. They end up getting full rides at grad school, lots of scholarship money at grad school, because they have a really unique skill set that they're bringing to the table. And then a third of them are going into industry and doing interesting things with industry. So, for example, the Ball created a job for one of our students who did CU Teach math, because they want her skill set at Ball. And think about that. That's a pretty cool skill set, right? So that's someone who has not only done the engineering work, but they also have a ton of time working with non-technical audiences, right? So if you want to learn how to communicate technical topics to a non-technical audience, this is a great way to do it. So this student has student taught in urban Denver schools, and she has gotten her math, and she's gotten her engineering, and she's a really neat person for Ball to have snatched up from us. We were a little heartbroken because we wanted her to go in. The school she was student teaching at wanted her in the classroom, and she went to Ball instead. But her goal is to go back to the classroom eventually. So this is really neat. The students that are in it right now that are seniors, what they're doing is they're doing a little bit of client project work with me as well. I've got a couple students that are working for Spark Fund this semester in their education department, doing educational educational lessons and curriculum and everything for Spark Fund. So that's how they're putting their K-12 together with engineering, is working at Spark Fund. I have another group that's working up at the Innovation Center up in St. Vrain and developing professional development around engineering for teachers there with St. Vrain. So that's their project for the semester. So that's another thing you can do with the teaching bit. All right, let's see. What I have, and I can do this or I cannot, sorry about that, I didn't realize it was animated, is I do have a little bit on all the different type of emphases. So what I'm gonna do, just for a couple minutes, is I'm gonna ask if anyone's interested in this, and I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about what those students do. All right, so first of all, mechanical. Do we have anybody who's interested in mechanical engineering? Okay, so mechanical engineering at CU Boulder, there's a lot of different tracks you can do with mechanical engineering. Some of you might have gone out and noticed that, for example, Colorado State has a biomedical engineering pathway, and some of you might have been like, oh, biomedical engineering, I want to do that. CU doesn't have a biomedical engineering, so I guess I can't do it there. It's actually not true, okay? So the deal is this, and I'm going to let you in a little secret, a little higher ed secret. In the state of Colorado, if there is a non-traditional major, only one state school is allowed to have that major, okay, and call it that, just so you know. Colorado State beat us to it. They at the moment are allowed to have the one that's called biomedical engineering, because it's not a traditional major. You'll notice that there's lots of mechanical engineerings, and there's a couple of these, but if we're not allowed to compete for state students, so we're not allowed to have the same name in majors, okay? This mechanical engineering department has a lot of bio-related mechanical engineering stuff that we do. So there's a lot of people that work in medical technologies, in prosthetics, in a lot of the different mechanical things, as well as product development, as well as some of the more traditional mechanical engineering things that we have. So mechanical engineering, there's a lot that goes on, manufacturing, material science. It's a really neat degree program that we have. And so as a mechanical emphasis, you can partner that with one of those concentration areas. How about aerospace? We talked about this a little bit, yeah. So aerospace, there's a lot that they can do. It's structures and controls. We do a lot of that. We also do a lot of things around human aviation. We have, you know, a lot of people that have worked in NASA and in space at CU. We flip-flop between the first and second ranked aerospace engineering program in the nation. So we get a lot of very cool people here teaching. Even if you get someone who has come in and, you know, we have some astronauts that have come in and they are adjunct faculty for us. So they are not tenure track research faculty, but they teach classes for us. It's great. You get to learn from an actual person who's been in space, right? Very cool. So aerospace is great. You could think about coupling that with, again, with management, with business, with teaching, with something like Russian or Spanish or something like that. It'd be a really neat concentration. We have a lot of aerospace students in our program. Architectural. Anyone? Okay, so architectural engineers, here we do a lot. It's what you would think it would be. It's architecture, right? But it's the engineering side of it. So it's really neat here because we've got several, you know, we've got some construction side, we've got some building system side, and some sustainable design stuff, a lot around renewable energy. And so that's neat too. And so you could imagine coupling that again with some entrepreneurship and innovation or some management or something. We have, one of the concentrations up there was technology, arts, and media. So that is actually a major that we have at CU as well, but you can couple them together and do a more traditional major along with technology, arts, and media, which is pretty fun. We've got a lot of really creative students doing that and putting those together, and it causes for some really neat projects in our projects classes, which is where my knowledge base is. Okay, civil. Anyone civil? Okay, so civil, again, our civil department is a great department. The students in that department, when I think about civil, I think about more things that are connected to the ground. So again, they partner a lot in architectural. There's a lot of overlap there. Building systems, lighting. We do a lot of lighting in civil, or we have options for lighting in civil, but also more on the construction management side and transportation and that sort of thing. So we've got some stuff going on with civil. Geotech, oh, we have a lot in geotech, so if you're interested in the geotech side. Electrical, yeah, electrical is pretty sweet, right? So our electrical department covers the gamut, and so we have a lot that, okay, so almost every project that anyone is ever gonna work on has something to do with electrical, right? So having electrical engineering knowledge is fantastic because you could work almost in any field, right? And so we do have computer electrical. That's a little bit different. That's like designing computers. But electrical in general is, you could imagine any of the projects that you're doing in electrical. So we've got some really neat E+ students that are doing electrical as well and have some fun projects. Environmental. Yay, my environmentals. I talked a little bit about this before as well. Environmental at CU, there's a lot of, are you environmental? Yeah. There's a lot of water in it, right? And so that's what attracted me to Colorado actually, and to environmental was all the water stuff that you could do. So we do have a lot with water, even though we, you know, our waterways, actually, so I have a lot of friends that graduated from environmental too, and they're doing things like working for the EPA. There's lots of environmental policy groups around here, and water rights that we do out here, and so there's a lot of that you can learn about as well. And did I get them all? Okay, and so then I gotta say, I gotta put this little plug in as well. So with Engineering Plus, we're a smaller major in the college, okay? So think about this when you're thinking about your majors as well. Sometimes when I talk to students that are thinking about CU, one of the things that they're considering is that CU is a really big university, right? So what are the pros and cons of going to a larger university like CU, a state school? Well, the cool thing is, there's a lot of things you can do. The bigger the school you're going to, the more opportunities there are to do other things outside of your major that you could try doing. There's a lot of different majors here at CU. That means there's a lot of different classes you can take and a lot of people that are good in a lot of different areas. That's great. When you come to CU, some people get worried about CU's too big. When you come to CU and you're in engineering, it kind of narrows down your field a little bit, right? So there's the opportunity to do all this stuff, but we hang out with engineers, right? So that college makes it a little smaller for you. So it's a little less scary to be an engineering student on campus because it is a little smaller. It's not. The world doesn't have to be that big if you don't want it to be. And then when you get bored of engineering, you get to reach out and do everything. And then when you come to the engineering majors, that narrows your field about the people that you're hanging out with a little bit more, right? So Engineering Plus is small. We have about 140 students right now. We're growing, but we're still pretty small. What does it mean to be a small major? It means I know all of my Engineering Plus students. My Engineering Plus students are not a number to me. My office is open. They come in. I know their names. I know a lot about them. I know what they're up to. And it makes it an even smaller community. Because we're a smaller major, so by comparison, mechanical is about 700 to 900 students in it. So you might not meet everyone in mechanical when you're in mechanical, and you might not meet everyone in Engineering Plus either. But we have, since we're a smaller group, we can do things like donut hour, right? So mechanical can't do donut hour. There's too many donuts to buy. We can do donut and coffee hour, and we try to do these things about monthly. We have been slacking a little bit, I know, in the last couple of months. We've been busy. But we can do barbecues and stuff because we only have 140 people. So you get to really know your faculty. I think that's what the important thing is there. We have 4 faculty members. We're in a search right now to find our 5th. We had 5 and now we have 4. And so we know our students. You get to know us. And you know what that's really great for? Letters of recommendation. Okay? So you're not trying to find some professor that you had in some class that you did well in and that you went to a couple of their office hours and they seem pretty cool. You know your faculty that have been teaching these design classes. You've been in these design classes. They know you. They know how you work on a team. They know what kind of skills you have. I know what products they developed. When I write a letter of recommendation, I love doing it because I feel like I really know my students. I know them well enough that I can really write about them. And so I think that's a neat opportunity for people. So we have, you get to know your peers, you get to know your group of peers in Engineering Plus have a lot of different interests. You worked with them on different teams. You get to know your faculty really well. We have cool swag. We also have special spaces that you can use, and we are, if you've done a tour of the Engineering Center, has anyone done a tour of the Engineering Center before? You should. So when you go in the Engineering Center, you're gonna walk through the lobby. It's pretty cool. It didn't used to have windows on it, so it used to be very dark. So even 10 years ago, they've done a good job of getting a little bit of daylighting in there, which is fabulous. But you're gonna walk through that. That's gonna be cool. You're gonna see some classrooms. And then you're gonna walk into the end that's the closest to Regent, to that parking structure that's near Coors Event Center where the basketball games are. And you're gonna walk in there and you're gonna be like, ah! There are open lab plazas. There's an airplane wing on one level. There's a big ball machine. Who's been in there and seen it, see, right? There's a big ball machine, like a Rube Goldberg, one of those little balls go through the maze thing. Machine, there is study rooms for students, there are patios, there are things. That's where the E+ faculty live. That's where the E+ program lives, is in this hands-on space. Because we teach these hands-on classes, that's the space we live in. So when you do your tour of the Engineering Center and you get into that ITL, you could be like, oh, I remember Dr. Zarske talked about this. She's around here somewhere. But this is a very cool space that I'm walking through. And we don't only let Engineering Plus students, any student in the college in any major, you all have been there, can have your classes there too. But we kind of rule the roost a little bit over there, so it's pretty fun. Whew. So that was a lot of me talking at you. Here are Engineering Plus students. We got them all shirts, cool swag, and we're out on the business field. So that's right behind engineering before. The business building, and then you can see the little C4C back there, which is where you go if you want to have a really fun meal because it's got all the different stations like the Persian and the Italian. Okay. So questions for me. We still got time, so ask me anything, and you can ask me about this program, you can ask me about design classes, you can talk about the engineering building as it was 18 years ago. I've been here, I've seen it. I've seen a lot of students come through engineering and the things that they're doing. So what do you got for me? I can move this so it's a little less distracting. I'll go back. Because it's just going to catch your eye the whole time. So I'll go back up to the beginning. Yay. Yeah.
How many credits does each of the areas have? So like the emphasis area had 22 to 28 credits.
Right. So and your core is another 28 or so credits. So your core in your emphasis area is going to make up at least 52 credits out of your 128 credits that you have at CU. And then you're going to have, so it's 128 credits minimum to graduate with an undergraduate degree. That's right, right? That sounds right?
About right.
Yeah. And so half of those, you know, well, about half of those are going to be your core engineering classes plus your major, so your emphasis area. And then it's somewhere between 12 and 18 for your concentration area. But then the other things that are in there that's going to make up the rest of your time is going to be your math classes, chemistry, physics. I mean, it depends on your humanities, all of the other classes that you have for the college. And it fills up quick. You can go on to almost any of the majors, including Engineering Plus, and you can see their flow charts of how they set up the classes per year. And all the majors have those as public. So I could pull one up if people want to see what it looks like. What else? Yeah.
Do you know of any other programs similar to this at other universities?
So here's the great news, is that we are also ABET accredited. So that might not mean anything to you all, but it might mean something to your parents. So ABET accredited. So ABET is the, if you have an accredited engineering program, that means that the National Academy of Engineers and the engineers in the nation have approved that this program does indeed train the people in it to become practicing engineers in the nation. So having an ABET accreditation stamp next to you is very important. Our programs, with the exception of a few of our newer ones, are ABET accredited. So you don't have that worry at CU Boulder. But I would ask that at some of the universities. Most of them are, but I'd ask. So we recently got our ABET accreditation in the last year. This is great for us because it means the nod of, yes, you all are actually a program. It's a really, really involved process that requires us to send every piece of student work that has ever been done to a group that sits there for months and goes through it. That's a slight exaggeration. We have to do every class, and when you have 6 emphasis areas and 18 concentrations, it's a lot, and you have to give examples of good, medium, and bad student work for every single one. And you have to meet all these criteria and stuff. So we got accredited, and there is one university who's trying to, so far, 2 that are interested, and one that is close to replicating what we have here, and that's Boise State. So Boise State Engineering is going to be the next one to have an Engineering Plus program. UW or Washington State is the next one behind them. So that's it at the moment. So it's pretty new. It's pretty innovative. Industry likes us. They like the thought of this. They like the thought of it because it's a lot of hands-on experience before you get there, right? So they want engineers that have a lot of hands-on and have some other skills that they're bringing to the table. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Great. Yes. Yeah.
So you said CU teach includes your hours in the classroom, so when you're finished, you could go directly in the classroom to teach and get your teaching license?
Yes, so we have 2 pathways. The CU Teach pathway, which is that math or science pathway, culminates in student teaching through the School of Ed. It's in a partnership with the School of Ed, so you do come out, and that is for secondary science and math. You come out with a secondary license, not elementary. So it's a secondary science or math. And in the state of Colorado, that means you're choosing which science that you're doing. So you're coming out with either secondary biology, secondary chemistry, or secondary physics, or math for the license. And we don't have an engineering teaching license. Some states do. Colorado does not. And so therefore, there's not a path we can go down. There is tech ed, but that is different than what engineering is. So that's a different type of teaching. So.
And then the other pathway is not part of engineering class, or you can do that one as well?
What do you mean? So the STEM?
You said there were 2 pathways.
Yeah. So the other one is STEM ed, and what it is it does part of the part of the education, but it stops it before you do the last class and student teaching. So it stops it before the student teaching prep class for STEM majors, for STEM ed, and it doesn't do student teaching. So it doesn't come with the scholarship money, but it does give you the education with the thought that some students want to come back and do their teaching a little bit later. And so they would be well positioned to do a student teaching plus a course and then get their license. Yeah.
What is your retention rate for the students that try to pursue this program?
Retention rate? We're a pretty small group. It's pretty high.
But a lot of people don't go into it and then suddenly drop out.
So that's interesting. So most of our students find us when they've been at the School of Engineering already. So they come in and they're not happy with their major for some reason or another, and they really loved their freshman projects class, and then they realize that there's some flexibility here and they can sort of design what they want to do. So they find us around sophomore, junior year, and then they stay because it's what they wanted. As far as students that come in as first years, that's a smaller number of students. We have more transfers in as sophomores and juniors than we have as first years. Our first years that come in, I don't know that they always understand what we do, right? Because we're new, and we haven't been really good about selling it. So those students who have come in may have, maybe 40% of them have left engineering plus and gone into engineering other majors.
Yeah.
So it's not a lose for us. What's a lose for us is when the college loses a student altogether to something outside of engineering. They leave. And we've got an okay retention rate. I think retention rates for engineering across the nation are about 65%. They're not great. We do that. Maybe a little bit higher. We might have a 70%. Don't quote me on that because I don't know the number. But we do either average or a little bit better than the national average on retention in engineering overall. But like I said at the beginning, a lot of our students switch majors. And so when they switch within the college, it's still kind of a win for us. Students that come in as first years, some of them don't like design. They take that first year projects class and they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. I don't want to work with a team of engineers. We could have a whole nother conversation about what I think about that. But I don't want to work with a group of engineers, right? So I'm not going to be in this major because you're going to make me do this every year. And I don't want to do this. I'm not comfortable with it.
What about the ratio of boys to girls in
Yeah. Yeah, well, we do. So and CU is actually one of the we're doing really well on our ratio of men to women in engineering. So the national average is for that is 25%, and CU Boulder's at 30, a little more than 30, 32. We might even be up to 38 for this incoming class. I don't remember, but we do pretty well with getting our women in and then keeping them here. Some of the majors do better than others. Within the majors in the departments. So engineering plus is one of the higher ones that has the higher ratio. Our environmental major has one of our higher ratios of women in it, or percentages of women. Chem bio has a higher women. Electrical, which is what you said, it's not as good, but you can make it happen. So, but that's actually the national average too. I'm sorry, you had said electrical. I remember it. I didn't mean to call you out on that. But that's nationally too. You can look at that. There are different majors that seem to attract more women than men to them, and that they stay. So, yeah. What else?
I'll ask one
Yeah.
that I wish I'd asked when I was in high school.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for people who are looking at all these majors at all these different colleges and like have no idea really, like maybe you've taken some AP classes, maybe you have taken a lot of science and math classes, and you know you like it, but you don't really still understand what that thing is. Like, what advice do you have?
So I have a couple pieces of advice for that. The first one is to breathe. Okay? Breathe. All right? You can go into engineering and you can change your mind. People do it. All right? Breathe. You do not, hopefully, you do not expect that at the end of high school, you know exactly what you're going to do with the rest of your life, because it'll change. Okay? So breathe. If you have an interest in engineering, a couple things. One, it is easier to start out in engineering and then leave, if it's not your calling, than it is to start out in something else and get into engineering. Okay? Usually what happens is that people that get into arts and sciences, say they pick a different major, and they do something else, you start to meet people in that major, you're gravitating towards, you know, some of the classes you're taking and stuff, and those credits don't necessarily transfer into engineering, so it just seems like there's a lot of hurdles, Okay? It is easier to transfer out of engineering than it is to transfer in when you're here. Okay? So if you think you might want to try it, go for it. And then if you decide it's not for you, breathe, and say, Dr. Z said it was fine. I'm going to go where my passion lies. Okay? It's not for me. All right? You do not need to know at 18 what you're going to do with the rest of your life. Putting that out there for you. You don't. But the other thing I think you should do is if you're looking at engineering colleges and you're wondering if it's the right fit for you, is that you should think about the types of things you like in engineering. Go into their websites, look at the faculty and what they're doing, and try to find the place where the faculty or someone on the faculty is doing something that's exciting to you, all right? Don't just go, but look and see what they're doing. If somebody's got some really cool research that they're doing at CU, we have freshmen and sophomores that engage in research, right? Introduce yourself to them, right? Go in to that school. You can go before you even are here. Send an email. Say, hey, I was looking at what you're doing online. I'd really love to talk to you more about it. Do you have time for a coffee? You could pay for someone's coffee, right? And most of us want to talk to you, right? Like we like to talk about our research and what we do, and we could talk forever, obviously. And so we're happy to sit down with you or have a phone call with you or answer an email or hook you up with one of our students who has similar interests to you and have you do it. So I recommend that you look at the place that you're going and look into the department you're looking at and look at the faculty and see if they're doing things that you think is cool, because that would be a good way to do it as well. Yeah?
Do you do research on campus here?
I do research, and I have research students. So the research I do is a little bit different than some of the more lab-affiliated researchers. I research engineering education. So I research how to make, and I've been doing this for a long time, I research how to make classes better. How do people learn engineering? What does it mean to be an engineer? How do people work in teams? And what I usually have is, so I have undergraduate research students every semester, and they often come to me with ideas for things that they want to research. And every single undergraduate research student I've had has presented at a national conference where they've been paid to fly to somewhere else, sometimes fun, sometimes not, and present their research and work. So it's a great opportunity for them to practice being at a professional conference, bring their resume to a professional conference, and to do some research that's published. And so all of my research students have publications under their belts before they leave as well. So most of my stuff is around, like I said, it's around projects, it's around service, like community projects, around people working on teams, around how people learn, around how we make classes better. So my Engineering Plus, all of us in Engineering Plus engage in engineering education research. So how do we make it better? How do people learn it? That's really. But yeah, so in our program, we have research students that do work for us as well. But it's not in a lab. Our lab is the classroom. So we do a lot of talking with people, a lot of user stuff. What else? I don't know. Yeah.
So you've obviously you said you've been teaching for a while, so you could probably answer this pretty well. Do you think there's much of a difference between a state school and non-state schools?
You mean?
Like colleges.
Like, so private schools?
Yeah.
Okay. So, it depends on what we're talking about, okay? So, state schools can be just as good as private schools, if you're thinking about that. Private schools tend to have private funds that they work from, and they tend to be able to give more scholarship money, that's for sure, than state schools can. And so, I do recommend that everybody looks for scholarships. There's lots of scholarship money that goes unclaimed every year, and it doesn't hurt you to apply, right? Every little bit helps. $500 here, a couple $100 here. You put it together, and we've had students who put together like 20 different small scholarships and end up paying and then have pocket money afterwards. So it depends on, you have to do the work, right? But once you've written one, it's actually not that hard to repurpose that for other scholarships, okay? So I highly recommend it. But private schools have more scholarship money to use. I think it depends on the program you're looking at. Some private schools have really great programs where they get to pull in really great faculty to do very specific things. And then some of the state schools really attract some really great faculty too. yours truly. Just kidding. But like aerospace here, it's a state school. It's one of the top in the nation. It beats all of the private schools, right? And we're a state school. So I think it depends on, usually some of the big differences are funding, but I think it depends on, so what are you trying to say? Like, what are you really asking me here?
Well, just like the difference between schools, and is it basically program to program?
It is. So if you're asking me like Mines versus CU, like if you were sort of headed in that direction, it's programs. Which programs do you offer? And what specialty areas do you have? And what do you focus on? That's a good question though. It just depends by school. It really does. And then there's, in-state and out-of-state, there are differences there. It depends on if you want to get away from mom and dad or if you don't. I'm encouraging my daughters to stay in-state because I don't think I can afford for them to go elsewhere, but, I get it. Go a little farther away. I get it. You'll come back. You'll miss us. Yeah.
How would you compare CU's engineering teach program versus Mines teach program?
I don't know a lot about Mines teach. You mean their teaching pathway program? I don't know a lot about their program. I do know, though, that our CU Teach Engineering program is part of our larger university CU Teach program. So when you're in that program, you're working with other science and math majors who are getting their licensure from math and from arts and sciences. So you've got your integrated physiology students, and you've got your MCDB students. You've got all your different sciences in those classes. So you're not just engineering students taking these classes. It's the gamut. I do know that we graduate the most number of licensed secondary STEM teachers of any college in the state come from here. So as far as the education programs, I don't know exactly what they're doing. I know they're not graduating as many students in STEM, in science and math education as we are. So I think we're doing something right. The one thing that I love about that program for us is that we have a really great practicum experience for our students, and they're doing a ton of practicum hours. So they start right away in our first class, which, by the way, you can take as any major. You don't have to be on the Teach pathway, and it actually counts as one of your humanities courses for engineering. It's a 1-credit class, and this is so cool for you all. So it is called Step 1, Education 2020, and it's a 1-credit class. It meets once a week, and you get partnered with a local elementary school to teach in their science classroom. So all of our Boulder Valley and St. Grand Valley and some Jeffco schools, elementary schools, are partnered with us, and you get to go in 5 times and teach science or engineering to elementary school students. What school are you all at?
Boulder.
What's that?
Boulder High.
I wasn't. What school are you at? Crestview. We have students that work at Crestview. So have you ever had the engineering or the science students come in and work with your class? Yeah, pretty cool, right? So so you get to go in and you get to do that 5 times, and our students love it. So a lot of our students take it even if they're not science, teaching majors, but they love it because it's so different than the technical classes you're taking. So 5 times over the semester and once every week you get to work on lesson plans, and you get to be like cool. Some of my students say cool for the first time in elementary school, but you could be cool in elementary school by teaching hands-on science. That's what we do in the elementary school. And then you start into the secondary. So in the next class after that, you do middle school in the area. And then after that, you're in middle or high school math or science classrooms. So, yeah. It's a nice service class. I love that class. I teach that class. I'm completely biased, but it's a ton of fun. Students love it. Yeah.
So from engineering, from CU, what exactly are you looking for from high school students coming in? Like what classes they kind of excited for?
Sure. So I would say that there are at all engineering colleges, we're looking for that you've taken some challenging courses. We're looking that you did not stop taking challenging courses the spring semester of your senior year, right? So it's not all basket weaving or whatever. I don't even know what you guys have, but you continue to take your challenging courses through senior year, right? We're looking that you take a variety of classes, and of course, there are some test scores. Test scores tell me nothing about you, and so I am not. I don't think that's a great measure of it, but that's what colleges have. They have, test scores and stuff. But we're really looking for a diversity of students, right? We want to see the other types of experiences that you've had, that you've done some leadership experiences of some sort on some team or club or youth group or something. And And don't underestimate the value of the essay, all right? So people read these, they do. I know it goes into the Common App and stuff like that, but people do read what you write, and we wanna know who you are, right? Like we need to make a decision about who you are and how you would fit here. And so be honest in it, but write well. Make sure you spell check and grammar check the thing by all means. Give me a break. I've seen some, and we want to know who you are. So the other thing is, if you have something that was not a great course for you or not a great semester for you, life happens, right? What you have to do is not say, okay, well, I'm not going to apply there because I'll never even make it because I had this bad semester. You have to explain it to us, right? So you can't just assume that we get it. You need to tell us why that didn't work for you, right? And you can do that in applications and in essays. You can say, that was a really rough semester for my family, right? Like that didn't work well for me. And so I tried really hard after that, and you'll see the upswing of my classes after that semester, but that was a rough one for us. And that's human, and we look for that. So we're looking for, we want people. We don't want numbers. We want people that have some interesting stories to tell us, and that aren't afraid to tell us the truth, and that show a variety of activities. And also, I'm telling you, if you want to come here to CU Boulder, talk to us about how you feel about your community, right? Because the students that are here at CU Boulder really want to make the world a better place. So how are you going to help your peers? And I'll do that as well. So team players, team experiences, leadership experiences, a variety of things that you've done. Those are all good. Yeah. And there are different scholarships even at CU that you can apply for in engineering. So if you are, there's a Bold scholarship that you can apply for women and for diverse students and students that are in partner high schools with us. And that's a couple $1,000s. It's a pretty easy scholarship. I'm always surprised at how many people don't apply for that could. Again, when you find scholarship opportunities, try it. It doesn't hurt you to try it, right? All that's going to happen is they're going to say, well, you didn't match that. And that's fine. So it was, a couple hours of your time, and I get it, time is valuable, but maybe there's a chance that you will get it. So I just think that's worth it. What else? Is everybody hungry? Ready for dinner? Done. I'm done. I was in school all day. I had a 4-day weekend. You made me go back to school, and then you made me come here. I got it. Like I said, I have 2 daughters, and I get that. But at the same time, this is your opportunity. I've been here for a while, and I know a lot of this stuff. And I know a lot of the majors, and I know a lot of faculty in the different majors. So what else do you have? Yeah?
What's the arts and technology media concentration like? What do you really prefer?
So that's interesting, because you picked the one that I'm not knowledgeable on. But I'm going to show you real quick what that one is so we can talk about it intelligently. So I'm going to show you our website. And if you go into our website, you can go into, now ABET accredited, woo-woo. And there, we're so happy. I love this because I know every single student in these pictures, so I just look at these and laugh. All right, and if we talk about our concentrations, and we go to our, these are all of them on here, and we go down to our technology, arts, and media, I'm going to show you what you're going to take. So technology, arts, and media is a 15 credit one, multidisciplinary, and what you're going to be taking is you're going to be taking image, web, and text, and then you get to pick form and sound. So this is pretty fun. So what I see from the students that have, so this is actually a major in our college too. You can major in technology, arts, and media, and then do all this but a whole lot more, right? And I think it's our newest. There might be one other that it's competing with, so it's not, it hasn't gone through as many iterations as we have yet, but it's getting there. So what's neat about this is that these students, when I see them in project teams, is they're bringing in a lot of really interesting ways to communicate the designs that we're doing. So you can think about apps and video and sound, and how do we display what is not the product, just the product itself, but how does the product, how is it marketed to the community, and how, or to whoever's looking at it, and then what's the whole experience, I think, is what I see in product design. So we're not just looking at the product and talking about it with a poster. We've got a whole experience that we've got going on with lights and sound and music and interaction with our products. Which is not to say it doesn't happen with other teams, but I always see it when I have a team that has a TAM major or a TAM concentration in it. Yeah?
Also, the lecture in 2 weeks is a professor from TAM.
Oh, nice. Perfect. You should totally come. They'll know a whole lot more than I will. This is one thing that I forgot to mention about the projects, which I think is really cool, is that every time you take a projects class, we have an end of semester design expo. Has anyone been to the expo before? It's pretty cool. So what happens is at the end of every semester, all of our projects classes that I had listed up there have this design expo at the College of Engineering. It's in the 3rd Saturday of April or the 2nd Saturday in December. And what you get is you get every single project that was completed that the students have done are showing them off. And so we have the posters and they're sitting at stations. It's free and open to the public. You get to vote for your favorite. And they get judged. What happens is it actually starts earlier than it's open to the public. You and your team has to sit there, dress nicely, present your product, present your analysis of your product, present your user testing of your product, everything that you've done with your product to a group of industry judges who are engineers that are local that we've just connected with, and we are always asking for more folks. And they come and judge. They go around in pairs and judge all the teams. There are winners of sections, and then it's open to the public, and it's just fun. So if you want to see the types of things, if you're thinking about CU and you want to see the types of things that students do for projects, the 14 or the first year, the sophomore, and the juniors are always, every semester, they are at this show, this expo. The seniors, sometimes we have some seniors there. Sometimes, like mechanical will have its own senior design expo that it does, or aerospace will have its own design expo. So sometimes we get some of those teams there. Sometimes they have their own expos. But it's a great way to see what the first, second year, and third year students are doing as project teams. Yeah.
What's the date again?
So this, does anybody have a calendar on them? So this year's, it's the last Saturday in April. It's like the 26th, maybe? Does that look right on a calendar? 26th? Anyone? And it's Saturday, and it becomes open to the public, I believe, at 10:30, 11. And then it goes till 12:30. And then we close off judging. We give awards, and we pass it out. Do we have it? What's the date?
It's Friday, April 26th.
So it's the 27th, because it's a Saturday.
Oh,
is the
yeah.
expo. Yeah?
So you said computer science had a separate projects class?
They do. Mm-hmm.
What is that like? What
So
do you
it's
do?
so interesting. Have any of you taken it? I'm trying to remember what the project is now. So so there's been some different ones over time depending on who is teaching it. I feel like there was a clock one. Do you all remember that? There was like a clock project. Any of the current CU students? No? Okay, so they I feel like it was like a digital clock that they built from scratch that they did.
Well, that might be the electrical.
Is that the electrical
Yeah.
one? Okay, so that might be electrical. So computer science, I don't know what their project is. It changes depending on who's teaching it, and so they do offer these first year projects classes. And in some of the departments, you can choose between which one you take. If you want to take the interdisciplinary one, or if you want to take the one through the department. But take them, right? So if they've got a hands-on class, take that hands-on class. I highly recommend it. It's the best way to learn, honestly. It's what you're going to be doing in industry. So try and get to the classes where you're doing stuff and not just working through a book, right? It's going to stretch you too. Also take advantage of all the different types of workshops you can take. So in engineering, there's all these like extra workshops you can take throughout the week and throughout the months. And we've got welding and industrial sewing where you get to make a hammock. And we've got a ton of things on microcontrollers and Arduino and programming and Eagle if you're into circuits, and all of our machine shops. So you can do mills and lathes, and you can do saws and drills, and you can do laser cutters and 3D printers, and I could go on and on. But they're there for you, and whatever college you go to, find those opportunities, take advantage of them while you're a student, build that resume, right? Because now you've got all these skills on it, and do it while it's there for you as a student and you're not trying to pay to do it as an adult. Okay? Not that you aren't an adult as a student, but after you graduate. Post undergrad. What else? One more? Yeah.
What would your actual degree look like with that concentration on it?
That's awesome. I actually have a slide on that. What does it read? So, so here's a good, so I'm going to pull up this slide for you, but I'm also going to tell you what happens in the real world. So, if you, what it'll say on your transcript, which is a piece of paper, which nobody hangs on their wall, will say this. It will say Bachelor of Science and Engineering plus, CU Boulder, College of Engineering, major engineering plus, option mechanical, if you're mechanical, and your additional field of study, and it will list those concentration areas, okay? The piece of paper that some people still hang on their wall will say engineering plus, and then it will have, it has some combo of, like it says the other things in small under it or something like that, I forget. But the deal is this. So this is what I always say to students too. So what it says on here is not how you're selling yourself to any company that you go to, right? You're writing a really nice cover letter and you're explaining what your experiences have been and why you're a match for that company. And so you're saying, I am in Engineering Plus. We were just talking about this. It's actually a really neat conversation starter for companies if they don't know it. And they're like, so what does that mean? And you can say, hey, I mean, tell me what you think. So you get to say, hey, this is what I've done. This is how I designed my degree in engineering from CU Boulder, which is the top engineering school in the Mountain Time Zone, right? So this is how I designed it, and this is what I got to do. Because CU cares enough about its students that it allows for you to have some flexibility. What do you say when you go and talk to people?
I usually say, like, I'm doing a combination of mechanical engineering and neuroscience because I'm interested in medical engineering and research, and this background in neuroscience really helps me because I'm interested in like neural prosthetics as well as modeling human movement. So like being able to be well versed in those subjects really allows me to be interdisciplinary and understand those subjects.
Yeah.
And then it's just great because people are like, oh, like you're an engineer that knows neuroscience, thank goodness, like we need you in our lab.
Yeah.
We need you.
Yeah.
It just snowballs. But
So another advantage of having a small group like this is that today we had several students that we did lunch with today, and they were practicing their pitches today. So Rachel was one of them. She's got a great pitch. I think that we need to record it and then put it out there for people. But she will sit there and she will flat out say, so I'm in the Engineering Degree Plus program, and let me tell you what that means. And then she'll talk exactly like that. I have done mechanical engineering plus engineering management plus entrepreneurship plus STEM education, and this is what that has allowed me to do. I've had this type of internship. She worked for Spiro, if you're familiar with that company that's around here. I have worked for Science Discovery. I have worked with this group. I have, you know, and she's got all these really fun things. And so it's kind of neat. So when you are applying, and I can tell you this, so if Engineering Plus, you're sort of seeing yourself as more than just a traditional engineer, like I said. There are some companies that if you want to do that traditional engineering route, this might not be the place for you. This is not the place for everyone. I'm not here to tell you that this is going to be worth it. I'm just telling you the types of things that CU has to offer, and that it could be. I don't know. But there are some more traditional engineering routes where, you know, you want to do that, you want to work for that company, CU has a relationship with that company through that major, and that's what you want to do, you should go through that traditional major. And that's fine too. We will still love you in Engineering Plus even if you don't belong to us. And you can still come by and take my classes, and I will still appreciate you. You just don't get our donuts, that's all. Just kidding. So, no, you really don't get the donuts. But what else? Anything else? Well, this was a lot of fun. So I just want to say thank you to you all for taking your time to be here to support EWB, which is an amazing, amazing program. And if you didn't know this, and maybe you have someone talking about this too, but we actually have a track as well in Engineering for Developing Communities in our undergraduate programs as well. So if you are interested in the stuff that EWB does as a career, there's a track for that too. And the person who started EWB, Al Bedard, is actually not Al Bedard. Oh my God, why did I say that? It's not Al. Who is it?
Bernard.
Bernard, yes. I took a class with him when I was a student. It was the first time he taught it. It was horrible, but he's gotten much better. So Bernard, Al Bedard, yeah, Amadei, yes. So, sorry, mixing them up. Amadei, he's faculty here. He travels the world. He's not teaching every semester, but he's faculty here, and so he started it. He's here, and he brought it here, started it, and now it's this nationwide beautiful thing. So EWB is amazing. So I appreciate you coming and supporting that group. I appreciate you asking really good questions. I will hang out for a couple minutes if you have more questions that you want to ask.